The Consumer Price Index (CPI) measures the average change over time in the prices of goods and services consumed by people for day-to-day living. Now, here are the latest figures on the CPI report. In April 2023, the headline inflation rate rose to 22.22% relative to March 2023 headline inflation rate, which was 22.04%. Looking at the movement, the April 2023 inflation rate showed an increase of 0.18 percentage points when compared with March 2023 headline inflation rate. Now, this has continued to increase for the fourth consecutive month. Similarly, on a year-on-year basis, the headline inflation rate was 5.40 percentage points higher compared with the rate recorded in April 2022, which was 16.82%. This shows the headline inflation rate on a year-on-year basis increased in April 2023 when compared with the same month in the preceding year. That's talking about April 2022. Now, in case this is sounding too scientific to you, one of the major interpretations of these statistics is that consumers are having to pay more for goods and services. So, what is the true position of Nigeria's inflation level? What are the major indices to be considered? Any cause for alarm with this latest information from the National Bureau of Statistics? These and more questions will be driving our conversation tonight. Welcome to the program. This is Nigeria Today on NTA News 24, and I'm Musbad Wahab. Wait a moment and meet my guest. Thanks a lot for remaining with us on Nigeria Today on NTA News 24. We're looking at rising inflation in Nigeria, and I have two gentlemen in the studio with me. First is Mr. Niyi Akinshiju, financial and investment analyst. Good to have you.
It is a pleasure and a privilege at the same time.
Right, another regular face on this station is Mr. Ogbonnaya Okuko, an investment and promotion expert. Good to have you.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right, so you gentlemen are wearing smiles on your faces, but I really doubt if that's the interpretation of the statistics we're having from NBC this time around. I'm starting with you, Mr. Okuko. How do you receive this new inflation coming from the NBC on this CPI report?
I wasn't expecting, I mean, it didn't come to me as a surprise because one, it's
how so?
Yeah, because I mean it's an election year, and you know a lot of investors actually at this point in time always pull back to watch to see the direction where government will be going to, and the cost of living has actually gone up. You know, high cost of energy, the international commodity price crisis, the FX volatility that we've had. You know, there are a lot of issues that we've had. You know, surrounding the entire ecosystem of our economy. So whether we like it or not, I mean, these things are bound to happen. So it's just you know, if you look at it, you know, it's not as if we've become more productive this season. Because I mean, for the past few months, if you notice, a lot of investors, like I said, they've been standing on the fence. A lot of profit taking happened just before the elections. So until there is a swearing in, there's a new government, there's a new direction. So a lot of things will continue to, you know, slow down until we pick up again.
We hope to pick up indeed. But Mr. Akinshiju, Mr. Okuko is not surprised, and one of his reasons is because of the period we are in, and talking about investors, some of them trying to see the direction that the government will take and other indices in the sector. What about you?
I add to that, of course, anybody that had been following the pace of the economy will not be surprised, you know, especially when you look at the volatility, as I said, of the FX rates. Access to FX, not even the rate itself, access to FX, and of course especially the rate in the black market, because that is actually the market rate, you know, and it's already in the public space that it's difficult for most users of foreign exchange to access rate at the CBN and at the CBN rate too. So therefore, most raw materials that have to be imported will be imported at the black market rates with a gap of more than as of this morning, more than 320 naira difference. That is imputed into the cost of production. And of course, the major driver of this new figure that you have seen is food and non-alcoholic beverage. In the component of the CPI as a whole, the index as a whole, food and non-alcoholic beverage took about 11.51%. Is the largest chunk, So which means that we have issues with food security. We are not producing enough. People are buying food items at a high rate, and meanwhile, it also means that for each household spend more money, on food. So, and to that extent, it means that the household economy has become a difficult economy, because when a household has 10,000, for instance, it means the household is spending more than 50% of that 10,000 on food alone. So it reduces discretionary spending. You still need to spend on house rents. You need to spend on electricity. You need to spend on education. You need to spend on health. So the food are taking the chunk. Meanwhile, the rate of health, house rents, and education have also gone up too. Perhaps again, as I said, investors are not coming in to provide more of those services in the private sector. You have most of these, the government, federal government, subnationals are trying to provide education. But we know that there's a need to complement that effort. And the more you have that more effort, it's likely the balance of the forces of demand and supply. If you have more supplies, the price will start falling. So generally, there's you can say that the economic environment is inclement.
Right.
But well, not without some form of explanation too. Of course, the now legendary Russia Ukraine war.
Right, we'll get to that and all the
that made bread, for instance, expensive because of wheat, the price of wheat. And wheat is perhaps responsible for about 6 or 7 standard food, that we eat.
For an average Nigerian.
For an average Nigerian. And so generally, that environment is principally, what we have now is principally driven by increase in food items.
All right, thank you very much. And trust me, when you talk of food, that has to do a lot with common people, because you know what it means when anything has any effect negative as we have it on food. You said you're not surprised at this, and one of your reasons being that investors are looking at the direction will be taken in months to come, perhaps waiting for a new administration. That means key players in this sector should have anticipated this. Should there not have been some sort of measures to cushion this effect?
Now, when it comes to investor character, right, or way of doing things, what you do is, when an economy is already so saturated with those huge investments and not portfolio investment, when they are greenfield investments, now it helps you definitely have buffers, when it comes to productivity. And so it goes to show that we've not been able to do so much in respect to that, because we are still trying to solve basic problems of infrastructure, trying to see how we can increase our energy, increase the power supply to help to support productivity, to see how we can build the right infrastructure, to even support the farms with all kinds of support that's been coming from the monetary policy angle. The Central Bank of Nigeria trying to develop programs around the anchor borrowers program, being able to support those staple food like rice. So I mean, the program was going to go further into wheat, cassava, because I mean, these are the support system they provide when it comes to industrialization is quite huge, because every industrialization occurs when there is a proper plan in respect to raw material supply. So your raw material supply strategy has to be top notch, because nobody wants to set up a factory where you're not sure of where the raw materials are going to come from. Yes, people will always say, oh, we have it. No, we don't have it when you cannot collate, when that is not predictable. The production line is not predictable. So nobody would do business in that kind of environment. So see, it's largely dependent on so much. Like I said, basic things were still being solved. So, but I mean, the new administration will now focus on being able to become a little bit more productive. So the next administration after the one that is coming in won't have the same problem, because yes, we've invested so much on road. We need to do a lot more when it comes to power, because I mean, the new law that allows states now to generate and reticulate their own power. I mean, that's a welcome, a very good, something we've been advocating for a very long time. So we need to now look at to design an investment an investment landscape around that, so that investors will be comfortable to putting their monies in those sectors. So Nigeria is a virgin ground, like I always say everywhere I go to. We're just about to start, but I mean, we need to be a bit more strategic, and then we need to know that we don't have any time, because if this continues, we will not be able to cope, because I mean, the population, where would everybody run to? Starvation. People would, starvation would definitely increase crime and a lot of chaos in the system, so which is not what we need. So we need to hit the ground running and then get the country up and running again.
All right, we need to hit the ground running, and if this should be allowed to continue, we will not be able to cope. That's coming from Mr. Okuko, but I will actually like you to see to some of the immediate steps you think the key players in this regard should be playing, particularly the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria. Just in 1 minute before we go on break.
Well, the Central Bank had been trying to mitigate the outcomes of price increases, as it were, with increasing the monetary policy rate benchmark. Starting from sometimes last year, I think July, the proverbial conventional approach is tightening. That is, you increase benchmark rates, and that will reflect on commercial rates, and it will discourage higher circulation of money in the system. But I think it started at 11.5%, and it's now 18.5%. And it means that we have tightened our belt so much, and it's likely that there's also going to be an increase in the benchmark rate. And in doing that, you have a two-edged sword. One, it would affect productivity, because it becomes difficult, costly for manufacturers, producers, and all that to access funds from the banks. Okay. Now, when it's difficult when it's costly to access funds, when the producer or manufacturer eventually accesses funds, he imputes the cost of accessing the fund, into the production cost.
Okay,
that's it. And at the end of the day,
it will come back to the
price still goes up.
All right, let's quickly take a break. We'll talk more about the implications of these and some ways out in just a moment.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow, under digital economy, for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different?
We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that they are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thanks a lot for remaining with us on Nigeria Today. I am not Eukaria Clinton, by the way. I am Musbah and Wahab standing in for her. And we're still looking at rising inflation in Nigeria. One of the reasons or measures put forward by Mr. Akinshijo is that the fact that the CBN has been able to increase the benchmark rate to cushion or to mitigate all the effect of these things we're having. But Mr. Okuko,
it's not that it has been. I think most economists and watchers of the economic environment will say it has failed. You know, so what we are saying is that it's not the right kind of policy. Okay, just that's about the same way I was going with the monetary policies that CBN has been churning out over the years, and then we're still having this kind of increase now, fourth consecutive month in the year we're having this increase in the inflation rates. What do you assess of the monetary policies of the CBN as we're having it?
Now, if you classify inflation, you know, you can with what is happening, you can practically just call it either a cost pool, inflation. So, which just translates
this is
to
not called a cost push.
It's cost, yeah.
It's cost push.
It's cost push, yes.
All right.
Now, when it's cost push, rather, so cost of production goes high due to this inflation, because I mean, when the energy cost goes up, it moves into the cost of transportation, and it moves into, because again, like I said, the demand for raw material is quite high for FX. Now, when the cost of FX goes high, with the whole, you know, issues we've been having with foreign exchange. Now, if you import raw material at a very high cost, somehow you push that to consumers. So when cost of production is high, so what it simply means is that we need to internalize our production. We need to begin to structure our, you know, our raw materials, industries. Because if you continue to depend on Forex to bring in your raw materials, I say it every day. I have defined this I use it as an illustration all the time. The candy, Tom-Tom, is not made in Nigeria. It's actually assembled in Nigeria, because it's made out of three things: glucose syrup.
As simple as Tom-Tom.
Yes, glucose syrup, coloration and flavoring, then little water. That's what Tom-Tom is made up of. Glucose syrup, which is 80% of Tom-Tom, is brought in from Brazil or Brazil, China, India. The coloration is brought in from Turkey. And then flavoring also from, so what do we actually assemble? So we need to understand the depth of what we face when it comes to raw material supplies. So until we begin to support our agro sector, which in turn will become the supply, you know, the supplier of raw material, and then we'll make sure that we have the, you know, the raw material, the infrastructure that takes the goods from the farm gates to the production line where they become raw materials before they go to the, you know, where the goods now become a finished goods. We're just going around the circle. Like I said, now the CBN brought out some programs to see how they can, you know, lend specifically to certain sectors of the economy. Until those things are well managed and properly, you know, administered, it will become a bit difficult. And this is exactly the same thing that occurs in the pharmaceutical industry. The API, the active pharmaceutical ingredients that you use in the pharmaceutical industry, are all being imported. So what we do is just assemble Panadol. We don't produce anything. So pretty much it becomes a bit difficult. So like I said, if we want to get it right, we need to have a holistic plan towards becoming more productive.
Thank you very much. Holistic plan indeed. Now, you mentioned the benchmark rate, which you suggest is not the best way to go as we're having it. Now, if the CBN has been coming up with these policies and then probably some evaluation over time, and we're still having this effect, what do you see of a fiscal sustainability plan of a CBN and other key players in the sector?
Well, the CBN is mainly focused on price stability, and this is the responsibility of the CBN. How do you stabilize prices in the economy so that you stem the momentous movement, growth of price? The conventional tool really is to increase benchmark rates. That's tighten access to fund.
Is that not why one of the reasons why some people have said the players are only addressing the effect and not the fundamental reasons?
That's why I'm coming. You know, but you see, in some economies it works. In the U.S. economy, for instance, I think 6 months ago they had a 9.9% inflation rate, and they started increasing their benchmark rates. Over a 6 months period, they have gone to 4.5% because the economy is a formal economy where you can understand the volume of money in circulation and where you can also control that volume. Here, we don't even know how much money
we have in circulation and investment
in the first instance. And we are able to, some people are even, some economists are even saying it is not the problem of this money. Just like he said, it's a structural thing. It is a cost thing, you know. And because it's a cost thing, there's a need to also, of course, connect the monetary policy authorities with the fiscal policy authorities. So we need more roads, for instance. Thankfully, we can say we have 9,000 constructed roads, but that is out of 35,000 roads that belong to the federal government. How many roads that are under the control of the subnationals, the states, are being constructed? And perhaps the most important network of roads, those in the rural areas, those that link up farms to farm. Most of these roads are the ones rejected, ignored by governors, for instance, state governors. And these are the critical roads because they are the linkage between our so-called farm gates and the factory gates, you know. So I understand that the federal government had to intervene at the time to construct about 600 roads, you know, rural roads, but they are not enough. You may have a farm settlement that has more than 1,000 hectares, you know, of subsistence farming. So it means you have different settlements of farmers. It is a good road that will create linkage and, of course, productivity in that settlement, as it were. But go to our rural areas, roads are not being constructed, you know. So to a large extent, it's a minus on productive capacity. And again, electricity is needed in the rural areas too, because you can actually start the derivatives. What we are ignoring is that derivatives of all these farm products are done in the urban centers. No, they should be done in the rural areas.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, Mr. Okuku, we're really out of time. This is not about the national government alone, because as we're having it state by state, Cross River with 4.68% is the state with highest inflation rate in the country. So what do you suggest, apart from construction of road, in just 30 seconds, that the state, the sub-national government should do to shore up this, to create a kind of shock absorber?
They just need to have a plan, and a robust plan that will make their economy more productive, and they should connect to the center. Every plan that they are having should connect with what's happening at the center. Surprisingly, the Cross River State we're talking about, yes, the governor tried to do some industries, tried to build the garment industry. I mean, that it doesn't end there. I mean, I expected the way he was going that by now he would have sold that garment industry to the private sector and then gone into
effective
management and gone into another transaction, because I understand how Cross River State moves, the wheel of development in Cross River State, because it's a civil service state. You know, try to just encourage more investors to come and play within the state. But you see how high the inflation is. I mean, the inflation is hitting them hard there, because I mean, what he's doing, he wasn't able to move to the next level, so he left it there. I hope the next person that takes over will be able to.
Well, that will be the hope of many Nigerians indeed, and of course Nigerians would like to see how the country, with efforts, collective efforts of national and sub-national governments together to this and fix the economy. And of course, a new administration is just around the corner. That's Nigeria Today on NTA News 24, and we must say a very big thank you to our guest in the studio, Mr. Niyi Akinshiju, financial and investment analyst, and of course Mr. Ogbonna Okuko, an investment promotion expert. We really appreciate you, gentlemen.
All right, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
All right, Nigeria Today will go for tonight and return tomorrow, same time. Thanks for your time.